Piece at a time, so it doesn't fly in the creek, just drill and shot it, but
So we're starting meeting. This is meeting of Planning Commission, Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. I guess we'll start with the roll call. You want to start?
Sure. Cindy Watson, District 1.
No, really. Kate Kirk, planner.
Brittany Hayning, planning tech.
Pepper Neal, Coke Blunt.
Jacob Ray, District 3. Artie Hutto, District 2. Todd Queen, District 1.
David Merrick, District 3.
Tony Mott's District 3.
Matt Clark, District 1. Wayne Rose, District 2.
Robbie LaValle, Delta County.
All right, does anyone have any additions, deletions, corrections for the agenda today? All right. No meeting minutes to review. I know you guys are catching up.
Maybe next.
So we'll just get going with the public hearing item, PLN 23-128 Ballard subdivision. We'll start with a staff report, then move to questions of the staff from the commission, and then I assume these are our applicants.
Yes.
You'll have a chance to tell us anything you want to add, and we'll have a chance to ask you some questions. We don't have any other public members, but if anyone comes and wants to make a comment, we'll make some time for them. And then we'll deliberate.
Perfect.
Okay, you go.
Brittany's gonna give the
Brittany?
presentation for this one.
All right.
All right, so the application here before you today is PLN 23-128 Ballard. It is to consider a clustered subdivision subdividing 52.11 acres in the A20 zoning district into 4 lots, which is a preliminary plat ranging in size from 2.770 acres to 40.32 acres. The property is located on the east side, 2100 Road in Delta. The parcel consists of 52.11 acres, which have been zoned A20 per the land use code. The application is proposing a 4-lot subdivision, which is a preliminary plat that requires recommendation from your commission to the Board of County Commissioners for the final decision-making body. The subdivision is being processed as a clustered subdivision design. With this design, there are no maximum numbers of lots and no minimum acreage required per lot. The clustered subdivisions are required to preserve stewardship areas that would protect wildlife or ag operation. Here you'll see the vicinity map. The project site is located on the east side of 2100 Road and approximately 3.37 miles easterly of the city of Delta. Here's the zoning map. As you can see, the parcel has been zoned A20. The subject parcel is surrounded by properties that have been zoned A20 as well, with acreages ranging from 98 acres to 1.6 acres. There is a portion of A35 to the south, with acreages ranging from there's a spider. 458 acres.
This is a no-kill shelter.
4.4 acres. The area of A5 is to the west, including acreages from 32 acres to 1.1 acre. So here you'll see the preliminary plat for the proposed subdivision. Lot 4 is the largest, containing a majority of irrigated ag fields. Generally, stewardship areas may be used for ag, recreational utilities, drainage, and trails. The 2021 Land Use Code explains limitations of development and use of stewardship areas shall be noted on the final plat. With that being said, no development of lots, dwelling units, supporting infrastructures, or common areas shall be occurred in the designated stewardship area. As such, lot 4 will be restricted to no development until the proper infrastructure is provided, including domestic water from Tri-County. Lot 1 is currently a vacant residential lot. The application has provided documentation from Tri-County Water that they have a tap available with the ability to serve Lot 1. However, the tap has not been purchased as of yet. Once the lot is approved and an access permit is issued, the landowner will be able to apply for an address, which they have, as well as OWTS. Lot 2 and 3 consist of an existing residence on both of the lots. With all utilities installed, including domestic water from Tri-County. Both units have permitted OWTS as well. Access is existing from 2100 Road. County engineering will issue access permits prior to the recording of the final plat. County engineering recommends that the access for the subdivision be split into 2 access points, where lots 1 and lot 2 will share an access, and lot 3 and 4 will share an access. This will be a decision made by the applicant. All accesses will be required to comply with the Delta County standards, road standards, sorry. Staff recommendations. Staff has recommended 11 conditions, which are included in the staff report. Those conditions include submission of the final plat within 12 months of the BOCC preliminary plat approval, illustration of the stewardship areas and building envelopes on all lots, existing and proposed easements shown on the final plat, access easement and maintenance easements for shared access, existing road conditions, including center lines, be illustrated on the final plat. Water taps labeled, irrigation plans for all lots, UVWA easements, and plat notes. Deeds being submitted with legal descriptions of each new lot to be recorded with the final plat. Standard plat notes included on the final plat, and open space fees be paid before the final plat is recorded. All right, with that, staff recommends that your commission recommend that the Board of County Commission finds that PLN 23-128 Ballard complies with applicable requirements of the master plan and land use code regulations, and conditionally approve PLN 23-128 for a 4-lot clustered subdivision subject to conditions. And that concludes my presentation. And the applicant's are here.
Thank you.
All right. Does anyone have questions, for me or Kate?
I can
David did.
go around the room or? just-
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
I was gonna start with whoever raised their hand first.
On the diagram up there, this is for staff, are the stewardship areas, the dark areas, is that,
Yes.
okay? So there are stewardship areas on all 4 lots. But lot 4 is totally stewardship area?
It's not completely stewardship area. It does have a majority of the stewardship
Oh, I see.
area.
At the bottom is,
Yeah, it does have that piece. That's not irrigated. If I'm correct, the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong. That is just an area that can be, built on at some point, if they just so choose to. So at that point, then they would need the infrastructure for that lot, which would be the domestic water, and that is the biggest item for that, to be developed on. So the whole lot would be restricted, based on the stewardship area. So there would be no development on that lot until they have water.
then that leads me into the second question about the water taps. There are 2 existing water taps. The third one for lot 1. It said in here that it's available, but required a final plot that that tap will be in there?
Yes,
Okay, so then on the proposed conditions, number 6, label all water taps, that would include 3 taps at this time.
correct.
Yes.
Okay, that should probably be specified. The stewardship area is currently, or at least in lot 4, looks like A ground, irrigated A ground. So in the irrigation plan, with this, the irrigation water would be allocated to the different lots?
I mean, they would need to have the irrigation plan to show how much irrigation goes to each lot, but that the irrigation water is supplied by UVWA.
Right.
So, I mean, if there's any certain stipulation, that's gonna be handled by them.
Well, my concern is the stewardship area. If the idea is to keep that in irrigated farmland, then it seems like the shares of water should be required to stay, or a majority should stay with lot 4, and probably enough for the other 3 lots to maintain the stewardship area.
You're tied to the ground.
Right, and they can work that out with UVWA with staff, because we don't adjudicate the water, so we don't have any control over that, but we will make sure that there's an irrigation plan to show that stewardship area for each lot.
Okay, and my final question for staff has to do with the requirement of financial surety shall be provided to maintain this stewardship area. And I see you commented on it, but you didn't really say what your thoughts were on that.
That is taken from the code. So what it says is, it's references long-term maintenance, financial surety, or other mechanism for long-term maintenance of stewardship areas shall be provided. Really doesn't go into any other explanation other than that.
So are we supposed to come up with something for that as part of this process?
Or require that they have it and the BOCC would kind of put their stamp of approval, consider it sufficient or not.
I mean, it does require a financial surety
Yeah.
unless there's some exception to that. So it seemed like there should be some financial security to guarantee that there's adequate irrigation water to maintain that area, and somebody's gonna maintain it too.
In previous stewardship areas, it's primarily to make sure that the water stays
The water stays there.
with the
And
land,
I
and
think we
so
could do that with the
yeah,
irrigation plan.
that's previous stewardship areas, it's primarily that.
Okay, so that would be part of the irrigation plan, which we're not gonna see tonight. That's gonna be later.
Correct.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
I just wanted to acknowledge Victoria is here. Thanks for coming. And maybe we'll go around the room to Todd if he has any questions in this way, just so Victoria can kind of get caught up.
With the stewardship areas, how is the enforcement of that handled from the county's perspective? If somebody were to buy lot 3 and decide like, nah, I'm gonna build my shop there and just completely develop all, I mean, what does it mean, the stewardship, other than that they're gonna end up with irrigation water? What's the purpose of it?
So the stewardship areas are restricted from development, so. Because there's already a structure on that property, if somebody were to buy it and come in and put a second residential unit. Under the new land use code, that is an additional residence, which requires a limited use permit. Which would go under our review, and they would have to provide a site plan, so at that point, we would flag it.
So like another residence, I get that would come back to the planning department, but are they limited from being able to do anything other than agriculture on that property, or?
I mean,
If they were to put in, wildlife habitat or a pond, that would be within the lines of a stewardship, yeah.
Okay.
So it's not nothing else ever, it's development.
It's just to protect that land. The whole idea is in a cluster subdivision, when you're going down to these smaller lot sizes. My understanding, Robbie, is because of that, that's why we do the stewardship, is to protect that irrigated land as much as we can.
Correct, and this body has struggled with that
Mhm.
term numerous times, and so you're right, it's not clear, black and white.
Right.
Yeah,
Go for the questions.
but it's not it's not an easement. So-
Right.
Marty, any questions?
Yeah, how much water do you have in the 52 shares?
Can we direct questions to staff first? We'll let the applicants.
They have 52 shares?
Do you not know the exact number of shares?
We'll let them answer some, I bet a lot of people have questions about irrigation plans and other issues. We'll circle back to the applicants themselves to clear up some of that stuff.
Stats, separate question first. They don't know how much water they got, no, I'm done.
Trying to look at the conditions, are there any conditions about lot 4? I guess the condition is they have to get the infrastructure to develop on it. Is that correct?
Correct. So that would be,
Water, you, yes.
yeah. We might have missed that one. I mean, we've got that, the final plat has to illustrate the stewardship areas and, developable areas, but we will require a plat note. To define the stewardship areas and the restriction on lot 4.
Okay. And then I saw we did have the public sites open space fee, 300 per lot. So 900, so I guess the extra 3 lots. Robbie, I guess, is there anything happening with those fees? They just earmarked at this point until we have decided to do.
The open space fees the plan is for them to go away.
That's kind of.
Yeah. And then, of course, the fire, we have changed to where it goes to the specific fire district.
Which I didn't see anything in here about fire fees.
Because it's going to the district, so.
They're paying it.
Correct.
Type application is just going to. That's it for me right now.
We look at the map again.
Cindy, any questions?
No, I'm good.
How many acres approximately is in stewardship area in the lots 1, 2, and 3? What's the size
Oh,
of
yeah.
those little chunks?
That I do not have an approximate on, I can measure it out here. If you give me a
Oh, you mean
minute.
within the 5.9, the
The
3.9,
shaded
Yeah,
areas.
the,
okay, I got-
the
I see.
smaller stewardship
the
areas,
small ones?
and those are irrigated currently.
Yeah.
The final plat note about the stewardship areas. Will that say, what does that look like? Does that say this is a stewardship area, or does it list like these uses are permitted, these aren't? Like how kind of detailed is that plat note?
So it's essentially that no residential or commercial development shall take place on that lot until a domestic water source has been provided. Or that the plat has been amended for the stewardship.
I think those are all my questions for staff directly.
Yep.
Maybe we'll have the applicants stand up and introduce yourself. Add anything you want to add that may or may not have been covered already, and then we'll probably have some questions for you.
Steve Ballard.
All right.
Ballard.
All right.
He was asking how much irrigation there's, I believe it's 31.1 shares.
So it's just off the irrigated ground, you got acres or share.
Yeah, I also, where it says right there, that Larry Wright, that irrigation goes partly to that place too. I'm just a shareholder. I really ain't got any questions, I guess, besides how do I move forward?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Victoria, I'm sorry, everyone on this side of the table, I forgot we didn't start.
Let's start,
We
then you
didn't
switch
start
over.
here. Lane, do you have any questions of staff or the applicant? All right, Matt. Okay. Victoria, okay, I did. All right. Back to the, I guess, irrigation, any other questions? Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you plan on splitting the irrigation up. Have you kind of started drafting a plan?
Share for each lot.
Okay.
And they can do that or yard or whatever it is.
Do you know how many acres are, set aside for stewardship then on each of those lots? Was that? Is there a requirement in this code of a percentage of it? Like, have we just arbitrarily decided like this land's stewardship area?
It looks like this decision was like where it's currently already irrigated, so that we're protecting currently irrigated land from being taken out of irrigation.
Even in the front, that's irrigated ground?
Yes.
Yeah.
So based on measurements off the GIS mapping, that front part for all lots 1, 2, and 3 is about 3.8 acres, 4 acres of irrigation.
So with
Oh,
the
about 20.
with the irrigation that they have, with the lot 1, 2, and 3 having stewardship within those lots as well as being able to build, and then the 40.32 acres that has obviously the stewardship, there is adequate water to not only, like you said, to do a lawn in, say, lots 1 through 3, but also if there was some stewardship, they could also have enough water to take care of that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Question, do they have to keep those stewardship areas in production? Or can they let them fallow and go to weeds?
I don't know that we could force people to farm.
State paying them not to farm right now, so.
Yeah, sure.
Well, the whole idea is to protect ag.
Yeah.
That was the whole idea of why we opened up to cluster subdivision, ideas of letting people go to smaller lot sizes.
Well, that seems like part of the stewardship idea and part of requiring a financial security is to make sure that they do continue to
That's correct.
irrigate that. So that part of that irrigation plan, I guess, is where that would come into play. But that should be a requirement for the stewardship. And if there's gonna be any financial security or a bond enough to cover, I guess, somebody stops irrigating, that somebody's gonna pay to go out there and
Who's
irrigate.
gonna do your stewardship large piece? Is that something you're going to be doing?
Yes.
Would you be so kind as to enlighten us of what your idea is with that 40.32 acres?
That's farming.
Farming as in alfalfa, we talking a
Yes. Well,
crop?
actually, this year, they're, one side, the long narrow one, it looks like, it's in hay,
Okay.
and the other one will be in corn.
Okay, thank you.
And currently the strip, that is in lot 1, 2, and 3, is that contiguous now in terms of how it's managed?
Yes.
And would it be feasible to manage it for agriculture if it's split up into kind of basically 1 acre plots?
Once you put fences in there, I mean, you can put a goat out there. I mean, it ain't,
Yeah, cause how, you water them from the top to the bottom?
yes,
Yeah.
So how are you gonna get, you'd have to come down with alfalfa valves and
yeah.
run across each one of them, have waste ditches on each one of them in case one of
Yeah.
them's drying up.
And I mean, a share would be 7 gallons a minute. It's pretty, that's between obviously you and water users, that had nothing to do with that, but, it's almost like, each one of them have to have a pond or something. Be able to throw water out, to be able to use it.
Yeah.
It'd be tough to restrict somebody to 7 gallons a minute, garden goes.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, for legality, it would be like a share minute, but, or per lot, but if there would be one pipe where they could kind of rotate how they use it.
Where does your existing infrastructure come into the property from your head?
That's right here.
Okay, so you be able to.
And that's all underground pipes,
Okay.
pressurized.
Think it'd be smart to make some sort of a deal where they all share,
That's what I was saying. is-
cause I think you're gonna have to leave at least one share per acre, so if it's 3.8, you'd be leaving 4 shares over there.
Mhm.
Do some sort of agreement with those 3 lots that they rotate so they can at least wet the ditch
Right,
with their 4 shares and just one,
sure.
one takes all of it this week, then the next one takes all of it next week
Yeah.
and rotate so they can get some stuff done.
Yeah.
We might get.
This is irrigation and pump and ditch or gated pipe now,
That's gated right now.
so yeah, you ain't gonna lose a lot of water.
4 shares and get across.
Says Padre Valley water users, you gotta go through them to do the irrigation split.
Yeah. They, all they're gonna say is, that's up to me. They won't mess with it when it's that small.
So, I don't know.
I have a question. So what happens when you sell lot 4? You're not taking care of it.
It's actually selling to my cousin.
Okay, well, then somebody else is gonna have to be responsible, or this whole stewardship plan isn't gonna work.
That's true.
Any other questions we want, any more information we need?
Anyone?
Chuck, are you here to comment or to observe?
I'm observing the comments.
I love it.
All right,
One more.
yeah, Matt.
So would it be more feasible to delete those stewardship areas on those 3 small lots? And let each lot have a share of water to do with what they want?
That's what I originally thought the whole ideal was, by doing a cluster, is doing exactly what you just said.
Did somebody from the county specify that each lot had to have a certain percentage of?
No.
Just that it's already in production. That we don't wanna lose that production.
Yeah, but the way it's split, it's gonna be hard to keep it in production. You know, we're talking about then acre.
It won't happen.
Yeah.
Not something that small. I don't think so. Now, if they got rid of that stewardship,
Or is mine.
David, if they got rid of that stewardship in those 3 lots, I wonder if they'd be able to have water more frequently than say doing a rotation. Todd, what do you think?
I'm sorry.
Let's assume that they didn't have that stewardship requirement in lots 1 through 3, because it's so small. Would we then be able to allow, say, lots 1 through 3 to have, instead of doing a rotation of water once a week, which could be hard on people putting in new lawns and stuff like that to wait for a week for water. Maybe it'd be something they have more access to water. One share would go a lot. They would be able to each have a share and not have to worry about, accumulating it in one shot.
Well, I think there are ways, you see it a lot where people have, smaller shares.
Right.
That, they build ponds and they store, when they're not using water to actually irrigate their lawn or whatever, they're storing it in a pond so that they can have X number of cubic feet of water available to.
Water the
irrigate
lawn or
whatever.
trees or, yeah. Okay.
How many gallons a minute to share on pottery water?
Out on, Adobe soils and 7 gallons.
7 gallons.
Garden hose.
Shit, less than that, half a garden hose.
Oh, it's out there.
Yeah.
Oh, that ain't much.
Is there any way, that's kind of late to the game, but you split these this way because that's just the way you wanted them, or could you split it where you kept that filled and it went?
That's how I originally had it.
And then had 2 other dry lots?
That's how I originally had it, and then it was suggested to do the cluster subdivision that I needed to include that field. It wasn't actually included originally.
So would it turn you on to include include that whole field in one lot, so one guy can keep it agriculture, and then the other 2 lots just be, you know, outsides.
Divide them the other way, instead of going crossways, go up and down with the line.
Something, because you're gonna lose that field.
Right, if you don't have all the shares there, you don't have enough water, and even with all, what, 3 shares? You don't have enough water to hardly do anything.
Restrictions on them, making them farm their ground.
Well, so far, no one is doing that. Hey, or Robbie, can you weigh in on like the configuration of the lot split?
So the lot split, the way that it is, was my suggestion. Because of how that irrigated land is along the road. Because of how a clustered subdivision is defined. If Mr. Ballard wants to rearrange it so that lots 1 and 2 don't have any part of that ag, and that whole front piece comes down and then comes into lot 3, or vice versa with lot 1. I would be okay with that, as long as that is still part of the stewardship area, because that's really what a clustered subdivision, the purpose of it is. And as far as the irrigation goes, we don't adjudicate any of the water, so we don't get into those details of how many shares they have and what goes to what lot. That's all handled through UVWUA. They have their own agreements with the landowners. We just make sure that we have something in place when we have a final plat.
But it kind of begs the question of whether we can be effective with our goal of conserving agriculture, because like in this situation here, that would meet our requirements, but I can tell you 2-3 years from now, none of that ground is gonna be in agriculture. So it's not, we're not being effective at maintaining agriculture in our county by having this type of requirements in my mind. And I agree, we can't adjudicate the water, but I don't know.
Yeah, put those.
We can think about how the
driveways
land's gonna get used.
I mean, you got a driveway.
Yeah, that's actually the driveway, see the 2 arrows, that's where, that bottom arrow is where the driveway is now, or the top arrow.
I'll look at the top of the one.
There's where the driveway is now, and then we're gonna put another one in right here to access.
What is the green and red and yellow lines?
I don't know what.
They're just showing you where the lots are going to be.
Lot lines.
Okay.
Share. Gotcha.
And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 would have shared access.
That was the suggestion.
That's a suggestion.
Of county surveying or engineering.
Okay, thank you.
So if we were to say, we actually would like to see that whole strip of ag in one lot. Which would mean reconfiguring this preliminary plat, what would be the process? We would continue this and let them come back with a new plat configuration? What would be our kind of operation here tonight?
And in my opinion, it would not need to come back for reconfiguring the lot.
Okay.
If it was something different that you guys were suggesting, then I would table it and have it come back. But just to move those lot lines, I would not have it come back to the PC.
Matt?
How feasible is it to add that strip to lot 4, so you maintain the same acreage in production?
So that all the ag land stays with lot 4.
Right.
That would be up to Mr. Ballard. That's, I mean,
You kind of have to, you couldn't really have a lot 3.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty rough.
Is it already surveyed? Is it surveyed already?
Yeah, it's all surveyed because I originally had it exactly like you just said. And then they suggested that I changed it like this, so this is how I already paid to have everything.
To qualify as a cluster subdivision.
Keep it that way, I'm sure that.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
not miss.
I would already paid for all.
Yeah.
Because the cluster, or I don't think the cluster subdivision and stewardship regulations require that every lot contain a stewardship area. We don't have to do that necessarily. I mean, there's the majority of the land is still in ag.
That's true.
And take the stewardship off the front, and then, cause he's already surveyed.
Yeah, he's
Give
already
them some water,
surveyed, paid
maybe.
for it the way
You
they
still
want.
agree
to
with
do
us?
it.
I was planning on giving water, cause I'd rather see it green than not. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, but, so prove it as it is, what happens to the future
Yeah.
happens.
I agree, I mean, it's, especially with them paying for the survey and all that, like, you know. Yeah, just leave it as it is, and we just, you know, are realistic in understanding that lot 4 is gonna be irrigated, and it'll be up to the owners of lot 1, 2, and 3, what they do with that.
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, if there's a way for you to create that buffer up for dust and everything else. I get it, it's ideal, but it would be nice if that stayed in place, so many.
Well, you could put shared irrigation system in the covenant of the lot, you know, that those 3 lots have to share their water and everybody gets it so many days a month, and at least maybe they can keep it green and mow the weeds down and pasture a couple goats out there or a horse.
Yeah, and I mean, a 3-day rotation's pretty feasible. I mean,
I think also including the, you know, whatever, including building envelopes or stewardship area, kind of two sides of the same coin. Keeps the development, yeah, off the main road, keeps kind of the integrity of
Ag.
the A20 land without a bunch of houses right along the road. I
Do
know
we
there's
have-
already residences on some of those lots, but.
Yes, yeah, I think so.
Stewardship area? Like how they
Yeah.
get power and water and all that, right through there?
Yeah.
Not a, you know, not a conservation easement.
So they can't put like back when you went through.
And if there was ever to be a building envelope on that, it would be a situation, you'd have to come and there'd be a specific place they could put it.
They have to come back.
That's right, they'd have to come back. So that's the other thing to think about too, is that, you know, the purpose of trying to give him that stewardship is so that it gives him the availability to make it stewardship.
It
Puts
makes
a
it
little
more-
restriction on further subdivision
Yeah.
too, so.
It makes it more sellable if somebody knows they got a little green ground, will there
Right.
water, it makes it more valuable later or now or whatever.
And it sounds like you have a relative that's actually purchasing that 40 acres from you, is that correct?
No, I was thinking lot 4 was lot 1.
Oh,
Lot 1, my cousin.
Okay.
4 and Keelan.
okay, good. Okay,
Alright, sounds like
Yeah.
most of us are sort of come to consensus about what to do. Anyone wanna put forth a motion?
I still. Or,
Oh, sure.
that's the primary, and this is stewardship
Yeah.
areas in general,
Uh-huh.
but it also applies to this one. What happens, how do we have, what guarantee do we have that that will remain irrigated farmland? It's designated as a stewardship area. He says he's gonna own it and farm it, that's good, but when he's gone, he sells or gets sold to somebody else and they just ignore it or drop the ball. How does the county deal with that?
I don't think we're guaranteeing that it remains irrigated, we're just guaranteeing that it's not built on.
Not built on, but the fact that it doesn't have, well, that's my problem with stewardship is,
It's in the name.
it's just the name, that it doesn't get built on.
sure.
It has the ability to be irrigated.
We can't put
Okay,
a ruling on it that somebody has to
well,
actually
that's
go out there
where
and
the
water
land
it.
use code talks about financial surety shall be provided to
Right.
guarantee that. That's how you would do that. But
Basically providing like a salary for someone
Well,
out here.
No.
have a financial incentive for the next guy to keep irrigating that.
So it'd be like a reclamation bond for a coal mine or
Yeah.
something, you'd have a farming bond. Then when Travis sold it, the next guy'd have to take the bond over and keep it farmed, and if he doesn't, then the county could enforce the bond that it. They irrigated, which that whole can of worms.
It is, but that's what seems to be contemplated by the land use code, when they talk about financial surety shall be provided.
To make a surety
I
bond.
don't like that.
No,
I know you don't, but I didn't say I liked it, I say it's in the code.
yeah,
That's why you all have discussed it numerous times.
that's right.
And at one point, you're gonna have to not only just discuss it, You're gonna have to come up with a recommendation.
So instead of calling it stewardship, can we just call it an ag restriction on the ground? That the ground has an ag restriction on it that is recorded with the county and it is to stay in ag instead of calling it a stewardship deal, and now it's black and white. This ground stays in ag, it has irrigation water, it's ag ground, you can't build on it, you can't develop it. Put a 20-year deal on it, subdivision goes through that you can't subdivide that piece of ground.
That's a de
So that's-
facto easement with no dollars.
Yeah,
Well,
that's why they call it stewardship. That's why
At the
they're,
end of the day, though, they're doing something that they really didn't even come in here to do to meet this. They
right,
just told me they're trying to do this, and they come in here and now they're doing something different just to get past it.
I think we gotta process it as a stewardship, that's the way the.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Can't change that now, but that,
But we can change from
Kind of
now
a
on.
bigger
I
question
mean,
for
That's
us.
what they want, and then come in here and say no or yes, don't tell them, you gotta do all this stuff. Maybe we don't have as much development experience as we think we do.
I can tell you the one that came before us, the one that came before us prior, the cluster subdivision, that, remember, we all had a big deliberation about that. And that right now, that whole stewardship area is actually going into alfalfa. And the 4 lots that he has did exactly what he said with the road, you know, so the good news is that as a body, we were kind of wondering how that would turn out, and that has actually turned out very well, and he's got 2 building envelopes in that stewardship, and he's putting it right now all in alfalfa to have a good crop.
all too.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
I mean,
and
there's
no,
only so much we can restrict, you know, based on the regulation at this point, is we can make it a stewardship area, make the next guy have to come and apply if he
Yeah.
wants to do anything else on it. There's not a lot, we don't have this in this 2021 code, at least, there's not like a specific definition
there's no
for
perpetuity, I mean, we.
this, there's. Even agriculture, I mean, if we say you have to have it in agriculture and you go out there and it's not being irrigated and there's one donkey roaming around, like, does the owner get to say it's an ag? We can't really regulate that.
Does somebody want to make a motion on this?
Can we put up the list of conditions again?
Sure.
Proposed by the.
There's 11 of them.
I would recommend on condition 6 that we specify that label all 3 water taps. Because I think it's clear that they're gonna have a 3rd one. And when I read this the first time, I thought, well, they're only gonna have 2 water taps, and the 3rd one would come somewhere down the road. So in the conditions, I would recommend that be changed to label all 3 water taps.
Number 6, correct?
Yeah, and number 6.
Or can we say proposed, because you have to buy the tap, have to put on the map.
I have to get the address so I can buy it.
right,
But that's all gonna happen.
Yeah, no, we're.
That's all
we're
gonna happen
waiting,
for the one, yeah,
all
so-
we're waiting on.
Is lot 4 bigger than 35 acres?
Yeah.
Yes,
It's about 4 stories,
Yeah.
something.
So we don't really have to build a tap, you drill a well. So
no, but there's
No, but
lot 3 needs another tap.
Yeah.
But lots 1, 2, and 3, they need to get a 3rd tap.
Mhm.
No, I'm not talking about the big lot, number 4.
So maybe. Amend condition 6 to say label all proposed water taps within. The subject
Well,
property or all
there's 3.
3.
It's a requirement that they have 3 water taps. Okay.
I'd motion that we would approve PLN 23-128 with the. Recommended conditions of approval from the staff and David's change.
I'll second that.
All right, we'll put it to any other discussion, anyone want to plead a case in any other direction? All right, we'll put it to the vote though, then, all in favor say aye,
I,
all opposed say nay. Okay, motion passes. So next up, applicants, you will be contacted about, final hearing with the BOCC, they're the final decision-making body. They may like what we propose, they may have additional conditions or additional questions. And thanks for your time.
Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any report from the department?
We were successful in hiring a admin person. She accepted today,
Oh.
so that's encouraging.
Okay.
Actually get somebody there at the front desk, so. And did conduct interviews for planning director. The committee is still deliberating.
Okay.
That's what I have so far. There'll be a few updates to the 2024 land use code that were more grammatical and clarifying and intent, not changing anything that would have to come back to you all of us. A few things that Kate and Brittany have found and Dawn has found that needed to be updated. Questions for me?
I don't think so.
No, ma'am.
I just wanted to share that, we do have all of our applications updated and on the website now, so. That's been a big thing that we were trying to get done, and everything is as ADA compliant as I can possibly make it. So, those are all on, the, planning and community development page, and I created a new link for forms, so. Anything, conditional use, limited use, subdivisions, rezones, appeals, variances, those are all listed on there, so.
Thank you.
That
So
is
we
big
went
work.
from one form for everything back to 7 forms. But some of them are now only 2 pages instead of 30, so.
Yes,
A little bit more streamlined.
I tried to condense them as
Okay.
much as I could to be more streamlined, so they're.
Address and access will now have, not only have its own form, but it be administered under Public Works and not planning.
Can you tell us if you know what we might have on our June 12th agenda that's coming up? Does anything?
I think there's two, so
Okay,
possibly.
Yeah.
Preliminaries, yeah,
okay, so 2 subdivision preliminaries on our June 12th meeting.
depending on what comes of review agency
Okay.
comments.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I still have not, gotten anything back for the gravel pit or Hidden Mesa, so.
Okay. And no, whether negative or positive feedback based on us going to 1 meeting a month versus offering 2, does that seem to still be? Doesn't seem to put anybody in a pickle of a wait time, or
I
not
mean,
at this point?
I don't feel like it
Okay,
has, there's.
good.
Like, there's people that would like things done sooner rather than later, but,
Okay,
you know, we have limitations on when we have to do public noticing and things like that, so. And, the referral agencies is one of our biggest things, so.
Okay.
That
that's
has to
good.
come before it comes to your board.
Perfect.
I had one more question, maybe this is for Robbie. We've heard, or I've heard from at least one person who talks to one of the county commissioners about land use code stuff, wanting to still work on it or, you know, updates. And they directed that member of the public to us. In terms of talking to the planning commission about moving forward with future updates. Is that something we've been directed to do by the county commissioners? Is that, I know we've kind of have this ongoing list of things we want to keep working on. And I'm kind of setting those aside until we get, I guess, some more stability with the staffing situation. Because I know the staff will really be taking on the burden of a lot of the actual language changes and whatnot. How should we be speaking to the public if they address, you know, if members of the public ask us as planning commission members how to submit comments or requests or talk about future changes?
As of yesterday, the county was sued over the land use code. So right now, there will be no additional discussions. There will be no additional meetings. There will be no updates until that litigation is settled one way or the other. And, you know, so actually, I was working on an email to send all of you today based on this litigation.
Sorry, an individual or group?
It is a group
And their end goal is?
to do away with, as I understand it, reading the initial language is to do away with the 2024 and the 2021 land use code. Go back to specific development.
And then I've also seen there were some folks putting with a petition to include repeal of the land use code on the ballot. Is that?
That's part of the litigation.
Okay,
That the land use code should be on the ballot.
okay. Okay,
So you'll send us out an email kind of updating us this week.
Okay.
Thank you.
thanks. All right, any other comments, requests, things anyone wants to put on agendas for the future? Things to talk about now? Nope. Okay, then we'll adjourn.
So our next scheduled meeting is the 12th of June.
Right.
And thank you, everyone. Safe travels.